2, 0, go.
Chris, I'm so happy to see you again. This time I'm in on the screen, but anyway, I will see you hopefully in May. And if the situation with the damn coronavirus is going to be better, I hope so. Yeah. So, all right. So this is very nice. What I have here, I have two of your books here. One as your book about the Holy Mountain, which you visited many, many times, and it will be very interesting for the Greek audience because, I mean, this is the only book of yours which has been translated into Greek, no? Okay, it is the first one, and I hope that it will not remain the last one. And I have another one, which is a very impressive book, which I like it a lot, which is The Tree of the Doves. I hope that there will be a publisher here, I mean, to see the book and then try to get the rights and translate it and publish it here. But let me ask you one thing first. What was the particular reason that made you, I know that of course, but it is good to say to the audience, I mean, why you decided to go to the Holy Mountain? What was the motivation? What was the, you went there by chance or you planned it or whatever?
Well, first let me say how thrilled I am to see you and to hear Maria in the background and to be with all these writers and readers in Thessaloniki. The original inspiration to go there was from a trip I made to Thessaloniki when I was covering the war in the former Yugoslavia. I spent a day with a journalist there, the then editor of the Thessaloniki News, and he was very entertaining, gave me lots of useful stories to tell about the situation at that time between, let's say, Athens and Skopje. And that evening we drank some fantastic red wine, which he told me came from Mount Athos. And I knew something about Mount Athos because a poet I was very close to in the United States, the late W.S. Merwin, had written a very long essay, about 80, 90 pages about Mount Athos in the mid-70s. And I had read that essay, but now suddenly I put the two together. And when the war came to an end, I found myself in a state of, sort of despair, having spent so much time in a war zone, was having some physical issues, partly related to having gotten shot at in Sarajevo, issues with my wife and daughter. And so I thought it might be useful to spend some time in this very sacred place, walking from monastery to monastery, standing through the different services and acquainting myself more deeply with Orthodox monasticism. Plus, it was such a beautiful place to travel. I thought this is, after making one trip there, one pilgrimage there, I realized that I wanted to come back. And so I made a number of subsequent journeys there to try to get to every monastery, every skita, to try to see as much of the place and take in as much of the place as I could, and then try to turn that into a book.
That's wonderful, but you know, it is, in my opinion, it's not just a travel book. You know, it's not because you made so many references to poetry, and
yeah.
Actually you found poetry in so many instances there at the Holy Mountain, which was really impressive for me, because all these associations or comparisons or whatever, I mean, this is what literature is all about, no?
Yeah, well, I covered the war as a poet. I covered the World Cup as a poet. I traveled to the Holy Mountain as a poet. So that became my lens, if you will, my reference for the things that I would see.
Very, very good. But you are in. No, you get the Greek infection, I think.
Yeah.
You get it, no?
I very definitely got the Greek.
Yeah. And it is so interesting. When we met for the first time, it was in 1997, I think. And it was in Slovenia.
At Vilenica, yeah.
Yes, for the Vilenica festival. And then we met again in Athens, and then we had all these meetings in Paros with the Iowa program, which we launched in 2006.
2006, yeah. 2006, yeah.
And then again in Fez, Morocco, for another meeting, which was also very, very interesting, because the topics that we discussed there were for me very interesting, and actually out of it, I wrote 5 of, I believe, my best essays concerning the meetings in Paris, and then the other ones in Morocco.
And I think one of the reasons why those essays are so good that you wrote is, as you said to me once, that prose was for you a continuation of poetry by other means. Wonderful allusion to von Clausewitz's definition of war. But I have always been inspired by those essays of yours, which bring together so many different strands of thinking, as well as a poet's orientation toward the world.
Yeah, it was all these meetings were very interesting for me, and actually we had a motivation just to sit down and do all these essays, which are included in the book that I published in 2017. And then you are among the ones who I decided the book. So it's dedicated to go to you and our meetings and so on. And unfortunately, you don't have it, because you didn't visit the Greece since then. No, it was once when you were on your way to Russia, I think. Or you were coming back from Russia. The presentation of your poetry here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's it. So when you come here, I have a copy for you.
All the more reason to come.
Yeah, that's it. And this is the book.
Beautiful. Wow. Oh,
Nice.
Yeah, it's big too, isn't it?
These two young people are, this is an old picture from the two youngsters here, reading, supposed to be, in New York.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah. So it's fine. And thank you very much for your last book of all these little vignettes, I would say, but they're poems in prose, in my opinion.
Yeah, so, I think of that book,
the bonsai style.
Yeah, they're prose poems, but I also think of that book as being a sort of a secret travel account. I always take notes when I travel, and for that book, many of those prose poems were written on cultural diplomacy missions for the U.S. State Department, where I would teach a creative writing workshop and sometimes give an exercise to the students. And I would do the exercise along with them. And at a certain point, I realized I was writing a number of prose poems, and that became the inspiration to write that book called Flares. So it doesn't look at all like a travel account, but in my mind, it's a travel account.
Yeah, but this is underneath. Maybe it's not just in your mind, because all these pieces. All these vignettes, they work independently. So the meaning goes somewhere else. Not just the moment, that, of course you catch the moment, you're a poet. So you catch the moment.
But now it's at the point now that some of them, I can't remember where I wrote them, so they really can't be a good travel account. Okay. So let me ask you something.
I don't want, just to adapt again the attitude of the journalist, because I'm asking you questions all the time. But anyway, forget about it. Let me ask you, how is under the circumstances, how is the program in Iowa which you direct?
Well, we managed to pull together a scaled back version of the fall residency of the International Writing Program. And actually, we've been hosting a Greek writer here, Alexandra Katsura, a playwright and fiction writer. So usually we might have 30 to 35 writers. This fall, it's been 16 writers from 16 countries.
Wonderful.
And actually, I think you know another one who was with us, Habib Tengour from Algeria, has been here with us. We've had to do things in a much smaller way, and we're trying to make sure that nobody gets sick. So we don't have nearly as many public events as usual. But the conversation continues, and it's a rich conversation. We'll have a second residency in the spring for the first time in the 55 years of this program to bring the other writers who could not be with us this fall. So it continues.
Everybody wants to go to Iowa, and especially the youngsters, from all over the world. And people from Asia that are crazy.
Well, we have
to make an application, and if they're accepted to go there. During the program.
We have a fabulous young Burmese poet. I think she's probably close to 30, named May Yaway, and she's really such an interesting poet, and coming out of an impossibly difficult situation in Burma, Myanmar today. So the younger writers give me hope. They're doing really interesting things.
Yeah. That's very nice. The other thing is that is the interpreter, we're talking too fast or no? No. All right. Because we have an interpreter which tries to follow us and things like that. So the other thing, Chris, is that how is the cultural environment now in the United States? Is there a hope that you go out of this damn situation created by, I'm sorry to say, your former president and so on? You have a new administration and a new man. Yeah. You might, an old guy, but new in ideas, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think on the one hand, people are getting vaccinated at a much higher rate now. Biden has gotten through a couple of very big economic packages. The key thing now is whether he'll be able to get through, without any support from the Republicans, a Voting Rights Act to make sure that all the shenanigans undertaken by the Republicans, the GOP, can be held off, so that we can have something like an even playing surface for everybody. Many of us hoped that with the election of Joe Biden, the fever of Trumpism would break, but that has proved not to be the case. A significant part of our population is determined to continue to believe in the lies, the falsehoods, the fairy tales that Donald Trump told for all those years and continues to tell. And so we are a very divided country right now.
Yes, but America is a great country. So you will overcome that. You have that for anyone who knows the history of the United States, see that you have this kind of crisis. Since the Civil War, actually.
Yeah, well, it's the crisis, I think, is quite similar to the situation we faced in the Civil War, and I don't think it's outside the realm of possibilities that we will have another civil conflict. I often like to note that the people who are craziest at the moment are also the most well-armed people too. So the right wing has a lot of guns in America, and that's frightening to people who are in the center or on the left. But we have to hope that we can make it through these next couple of years.
All this, when we saw all these troops storming into the capital and so on, in the beginning we were a bit frightened.
Yeah.
And then it seems to us, because we have here in Greece, as you know, a very harsh sense of humor. And then we started making surrealistic comments about this and that. But for me, living for 6 years in the United States, and I love America, you know that very much. America, parts of America, because I mean, I'm telling my friends, I mean, when we are talking about America, it's not like talking about Denmark or Sweden or Norway. I mean, you should talk about America's different parts of it. And what is amazing, and actually, I mean, all these people, I mean, managed to get together and form a country, which is actually an appraisal, at least for us who love the States. You know, it's really it is devastating. By wars and crisis and all this concerning the economy, concerning the refugees, concerning all this. And you see what is happening here every day, not just here in Greece, everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a really complicated time in world history, isn't it? So tell me, Anastasis, what are you writing these days?
What? I'm sorry?
What are you writing these days?
What I were writing in the States?
No, what are you writing now?
What I'm doing
in these
now.
Circumstances, yeah.
I just published a big book, prose book, last July. It was published by Castagnotis. And the year before that, I published my collected poems, anyway. And then I'm trying to finish the damn book about the return of the Argonauts. That's the title.
Yeah.
And that was the reason that I spent 2 years in Slovenia, which is in the heart of Central Europe. But for us, it is very, very important. Because according to the myth, this is the place where the Argonauts return from Colchis and so on. And then, they stayed in Ljubljana at that time, called Iulia Emona, actually, because that was the Roman name of the city. And then from that place, from the river Ljubljanica, so he returned via the Socha River, and then they went to the Adriatic Sea, and then from the Adriatic Sea they came back to Greece. And everybody knows how the Argonauts, Jason and his shipmates went to the Black Sea. But very few people know the story how they returned. And of course, this is a methodological thing. But this expedition, I mean, is vital for the Western culture, in my opinion. One of this is the Odyssey and the Trojan War, and the other is that journey of the Argonauts and the Golden Fleece. So I wanted to see that, and then what I did, because I'm a little bit half crazy about this kind of things. So I stayed there, and I used to take the car and followed by car the imaginary route of the Argonauts. I mean, going from Ljubljana, crossing Croatia, and then to see all these places. And it was very, very interesting because in these places there were so many important writers who visited these places. And the other thing is that in Ljubljana, called Laibach in the 19th century, because that was the part of the Austrian Empire. Okay, that was a German name of the city. So in 1821, the second European Congress took place there. And that was, they made a decision about how to stabilize Europe, and then there's all this half totalitarian regimes of that period. I mean, with Caesars and the emperors and all these people. And there, it was the foreign minister of the Tsar. His name was Capodistrias, because he was from Capodistria, which the Slovenes called copper. You know, his statue is there. So he was there, and he had a big argument with that guy, the Austrian guy, Metternich, and so on. And because at that time, exactly, and then we had the uprisal of the Greeks, and then they started the war against the Ottomans for the liberation of the country, which we have this year, the 200 years after
200th anniversary.
that thing. So I wanted to see all this by myself, to touch that. Maybe this is the attitude of the journalist, but it's not, in my opinion, that the writer should have a first like taste of it. Just concerning his feelings, his ideas, the association that he makes in his mind, and so on, in order to write a modern book, actually, and not to tell the story according to the historians, which is something else. So, but I'm stuck. And then I have, contracts and so on with two publishers, actually, one here and another in Slovenia, and then there was a third one in Hungary. They're very much interested in the story. So
you have to find a way through.
Hold on a second, because I hear this is from the stove. I'm coming in 2 seconds. Sorry, I'm back.
These are the hazards of Zoom life, right?
No, it was, it was an alarm that Maria did that alarm in order, just to, for me not to forget. And, that's it. I think that we should do something just to have a book of your poems here published, to be published here as soon as we can. But we had problems in the market, during all these lockdowns and so on, and people made us nervous. The publishers were nervous too, because they lost money. They postponed the programs and the publications and everything, but still, we're going back to normal, slowly, though the situation is still not very, very, very good. Not just here, in the rest of Europe as well.
I keep thinking about how much our lives have changed just in these last 2 years. Today, the news about the new variant in South Africa that has sent the markets tumbling is a reminder that we keep thinking we're getting out, making our way out of it, and then something pulls us back in. And it's up to writers to try to figure out how to write about these changed circumstances, right? People started writing about this, the lockdown, the coronavirus, the epidemics, and things like that, which is, in some way, it is in trend. Very much, but I think that this is temporary. Actually, because people are hastening just to keep up with the events and stories and so on, which is not always very, very promising concerning the what you have. But anyway, but we are going slowly back to normal. Slowly, but back to normal. I believe that we'll overcome that soon, I hope. But of course, but no, who knows? So, how is life there? How's that? Well, I think at the moment we're the world has started to come back to some kind of equilibrium in the sense of not as many people are dying of coronavirus as they were, let's say, in January when 4,000 Americans were dying every day. Now it's more like 1,000 people dying every day, which is just still an incredible number. But that's the world in which we are operating. I think most Americans at the moment feel that they are most concerned about the divisions, the political divisions between the right and the left, and just the sheer amount of violence that's taking place these days. We had two famous trials this week, murder trials, and literally just before I came on here, I saw a tweet of a guy shooting dead another guy just at his house. This guy came to pick up his son. They got in an argument. They shot him. And that is sort of the rubric within which we seem to be living these days, that political violence is something that is more and more common. The craziness of the Trump years have migrated into the heart of the Republican Party, and so that's the part we're all trying to figure out what to do about. We held our breath this week. One of these famous murder trials ended in an acquittal for a guy who took an automatic weapon to Wisconsin and shot dead a couple of people and wounded another one. He got off, and Trump, of course, immediately invited him to his house in Mar-a-Lago, Florida, to celebrate this young man who was not the kind of person we should be celebrating. But then at the same time, another murder trial in the South, 3 whites who killed a black man who was just out jogging. Everyone feared that they would get off because the jury was made up of 11 whites and 1 African American, but they were all convicted. So that gave us a sense of relief that we're gonna survive. We made it through this week, let's say.
Yeah. But let's go to something more, not easier, but more pleasant, I would say. Poetry.
Poetry, yeah.
Actually, poetry. What kind of poetry are people writing there? First of all, I mean, you have to be somehow happy, though I don't know. I mean, because the Nobel Prize was given to an American poet.
Louis Glick. Yeah.
So, which was a surprise for me.
Yeah, it was a surprise for everybody, I think.
Yeah. Which was really a surprise. I was expecting somewhere else, not from the States, actually, from elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there are some good poets abroad, very good ones, like our mutual friend Beidao. Class poet, etc. So I believe that if we were supposed to have a Nobel Prize of this year for poetry, he was the one. The top candidate to get it. He didn't. Okay, but the Swedes are a bit strange people when they make their decisions. Sometimes they hit the right thing. I mean, they pick the right person, and sometimes they try to make a fuse
statement.
This is okay. I mean, this is in the media world. What is in the public discussion? So follow it, and literature actually sometimes is a victim of this. But the Swedes, it is very, very, very funny because they try to surprise people with their choices. It was with a Dario Fo.
Yeah.
Nobody was expecting this for him. Right.
Actually, the winner of this year's Nobel Prize from Tanzania, his editor is an old friend of mine, Alexandra Pringle from Bloomsbury in London, and she said that just the week before he was awarded the Nobel Prize, she was thinking that he just never was going to be noticed as a writer, and she was quite sad about that. And then suddenly, he has the Nobel Prize. So we're always surprised. But to your question about American poetry, Louise Gluck is one of many very interesting poets who work in, it would be almost impossible to characterize American poetry except to say that, like this country, there are so many different strands to it. You have poets who are like a Louise Gluck or a Robert Hass, who have long distinguished careers working in a free verse tradition, tapping into many different ways of thinking. But this is also a moment where we have a lot of really great African American poets, Hispanic poets, Native American poets. Our poet laureate right now, Troy Harjo, is a Native American poet. So there's an attention to identity that's an important component of American literary life these days, and a great amount of attention among nature writers to the challenges of climate change. So you see poets in, that with 350 graduate creative writing programs, we have poets for every possible way of thinking about the world.
Okay. I made a mistake because that prize was given last year. This year, when you went to prose to that guy from Africa, who lives actually in London. Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Anyway, that is all this discussion with prizes and so on. Sometimes goes out of bounds. And
this is Louise Gluck just published a new book, just literally 2 weeks ago, and called "Winter Recipes from the Collective," and it's a really interesting book. She was quite, I would say, very early on, a very severe kind of poet. But as the years have gone on, she's really she can be very funny. And she's writing much longer poems. There's always a meditative quality to them. But she has revealed her funny bone over the last few books. And this is another example of that.
Yeah, but it is okay. I mean, we have to be very, very, very curious about things, just to see here and there. And sometimes there are good things which are missing. We don't pay attention, and so, but this is the era of information and so on. So you get the information, and then you go to the thing itself. So okay. It's nice. The family is fine, huh?
Well enough. Yeah. We'll just leave it at that. I think the damn pandemic has gone on so long; it has had severe consequences for many people. My younger daughter has been sick quite a lot during this time, and that's always worrying. But today she's well, and my other daughter is well, and my wife as well. So this is the week. This is in America. This is Thanksgiving week. So yesterday we ate ridiculous amounts of food. That's what you do on Thanksgiving: turkey and things like that. So today is the recovery day. We call it Black Friday in America. People are supposed to go out and shop like crazy.
Yeah, we call it Black Friday here too.
Do you? Yeah.
Why they give it that name? I mean, God knows. I don't know why it's black, because money is black.
Well, because I think it's from
the seed of the devil.
Well, no, the black mark for cutting prices down. So there are special sales all over the country.
Yeah, black for whom? For the spenders, for the customers, or for the orders and so on.
Yeah.
Well, but it is interesting to see how it goes through the media, the market, and so on. And this is, I believe that we're going to the end of this era called historic, and actually. And then I believe, or I hope, or I want to believe that poetry is coming back because poetry is something else.
Yeah, well.
It is not the linear thing which is prose, what comes first and what comes second.
Poetry is about the return, right?
In poetry, we return to the point of departure, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's, and our great poets do the same.
Yeah. That's what we all hope for. That's why when Theodore Retke was asked what was the most interesting thing going on in American poetry, he replied, my next poem.
Yeah, here it is, we have a trend, actually, that many young people turn to poetry and they write poems. And this in times of crisis always, and you see the same phenomenon. We had that during the time of the colonialism and during the dictatorship. You had, my generation, in fact, a generation of poets, and many of them are very good. Because, you go back to the language, you go back to a kind of language which is the language of poetry, actually, just to catch the moment, to stop time, and to see things that they will last. And then it's a kind of I wouldn't say an escape, but it was for us, it was a shelter. You go to the language, you go to the originality of the language, and so it's rooted in poetry because it's the oldest kind of human expression in many ways. And so I see the same here. And the youngsters now, they write lots of poems about the crisis and things like that, which is okay. Some of them are superficial. Many of them are superficial, actually. But the trend is very interesting because I believe that out of it there will emerge some good poets, and it is good for a genre which is threatened to extinction.
Well, one of our great nature poets, W.S. Merwin, said to me once about the poems that were written during the Vietnam War. He said, of course, most of those poems were bad poems, including ones I wrote. He said, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have written them. You write the poems responding to the crisis, and you write the other poems too. And at the end of the day, paying attention in the way that Merwin was suggesting, whether it's to the social justice issues, to inequality, to war, to the environmental disaster. By paying attention to it as poets, we have the chance to write something that might last. We have a chance to distill all those momentary sensations into something that will endure. And so many of the poems won't be any good at all, but enough good ones will get through to make it possible for the next generation to write, to respond in kind to the dilemmas they will face.
I believe that it is good to have so many people again back on the track, and then they'll find their way.
Yeah, exactly.
Sooner or later. The good ones will it will be a beginning for them.
Yeah.
Just to go to the deep thing, or the real thing, or whatever you call it, etc. So I am a bit optimistic concerning the situation of poetry. And the other thing is that, okay, and then, because some of them, the youngsters actually, they believe that these prose writers have the public attention, they sell books and they do this and blah, blah, blah. Novelists, of course. not just prose writers, novelists, I mean the novels, and so on. And I told one of them, listen, you have a privilege against a prose writer, a novelist, in public, when you have a presentation of a book, etc. The poet has the privilege just to read the poem and just to catch the audience, which you cannot do with prose, actually. You cannot read, an entire, even a short story, etc., and to expect it just to catch the feelings and the attention of the audience. But with a good poem, some good lines, you do that. It's a privilege. It's actually, and this means, of course, I'm talking about what I think about this kind of things. First of all, poetry was and still is primarily an oral art. Oral. That's why we have all these festivals, we go here and there, and you hear people reciting their poems in different languages, and in language which we don't understand.
But you can feel the music,
the rhythm, or the counterpoint, sometimes, and so on, which is really fascinating and very interesting, and one of the main reasons that that it is a good chance just to go to participate in the festivals, and thank God we have many of them all over the world.
Well, that's how we met. I had the good luck to hear you read that long poem about the sea at Villanica, and I knew then instantly we would be lifelong friends, because you caught the music of the sea in your Greek, and even in the English translation it survived. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah, it was a good moment for me, actually. I still remember. I have vivid memories of that time. And then I don't know what happened to me, actually, because I went there and I see that this cave is a big one, and so on. And it brought to my mind the cave of Plato, actually, and the shadows and things like that. And then, and I did it. I read this poem, actually, which, well, then we met there, yeah. And you were still a war correspondent at that time, no?
At the time, yeah. But out of that poem and that reading at Villanica comes your new book about the return of the Argonauts, right? I suspect on some level that first encounter with Slovenia started to plant the seed for this later book of yours.
Yeah, and then we met again in other places, just here in Greece, and then again in Lithuania, in Vilnius, I believe. And then again in, where else? Somewhere else? No, of course, in Morocco.
Yeah.
And,
till the next time we get to meet, I think in Crete, right?
Yeah. You've never been there?
No.
Oh, you love the island, yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Just see that even to go there and to see the Minoan Palace.
Yes.
Pay a visit over there. But the island itself is interesting, and the people living there are very interesting and very, the Cretans.
That's where Patrick Lee Fermer, the great Hellenophile, first had his time in Greece, when he, or not the first time, but he carried out all those missions during the Second World War, clandestine missions, and went on to write so many beautiful books about his travels in Greece. Yeah, it all started in Crete.
He was actually, it's nice to see his house in the Peloponnese. Very beautiful, by the sea, and in Mani. many part of the western part of Mani, the eastern part of Mani, and then those who live in the west, and those who live in the east, they have disputes who produces the best olive oil, etc. So there's argument always going on. And the other thing is just to know, it's just in that place, I mean, it was shadowing, it was better there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not know
So
that.
when you come, I'll take you there.
Fantastic, fantastic. What a writer he was. What a writer. Yeah.
Yeah, we died so young. So young. We were expecting more. Actually, his Patagonia is wonderful. It's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. And the song lines is a great book. Very important book for me in thinking about travel writing.
All right.
Well, Anastasis, thank you so much for this time together. Feels almost like we're on your balcony.
Lovely to see you and lovely to talk to you.
The only thing that's missing is a glass of ouzo.
Yeah, you're Mr. Glass. Well, when you come, we'll have the best one.
Yes, I look forward to that.
And many other things, and then also we have another product which is much better than grappa. It is called chipro. That is very much very much fresh in Greece. And then in Crete they call it chipria, and it's made of grapes, not the apricots and so on, which they use in Italy. We're over?
I think we are. Yeah.
Εσείς θα διαπιστώσετε να είναι οι άλλοι παρόντες, φαντάζομαι.
Well,
Okay.
thank you, my friend.
Thank you. So nice talking to you, Chris.
Good to talk to you and give my love to Maria. Yeah.
Για σας
Very well,
ρωτήσω,
right well.
You too. Finish that book. All right.
πριν ξεκινήσουμε, μήπως έχει το κείμενο αυτό, για να μην το βλέπω εδώ, υπάρχει... Μήπως έχετε αυτούς που συμμετέχουν, να μην το βλέπω εδώ,